Hello Real clinicians, this is Ali Nasseh coming to you from my office right across the street from where the Patriots are celebrating their recent Super Bowl win. And so there's a lot of mayhem in the background as the Super Bowl champions are now kind of parading in the city. About 1 million people expected. Anyway, I figured that we use this occasion here to talk about the Patriots as obviously a symbol of winning and success, and why not take this opportunity to talk about the endodontic success. What is endodontic success and how successful is endodontics? Great little segue to talk about success in endodontics after this. Okay guys, let's come inside to do this because there was a lot of background noise due to obviously the parade, and it's an important topic and I don't want to get us all distracted. So let's talk about endodontic success. What is it and how successful really is endodontics? Well, according to the most quoted academic and scientific studies that most endodontists believe in, an endodontic success rate of about 89 to 94% should be really expected from conventional root canal therapy. And this rate varies slightly based on the pulpal and periapical status of the tooth at the time of the treatment. For example, if the pulp is necrotic and if there is a periapical lesion, well, there's a little bit of a lower success rate than vital pulps, maybe anywhere from 8 to 10% lower in a necrotic tooth than in a vital tooth. But these definitions are all mostly based on radiographic analysis with the strictest criteria for success, which relates to complete regeneration of the PDL. Now, in aggregate, and when tooth retention was chosen as the main criterion for success, the same thing that is used in implant therapy, well, large epidemiological studies have demonstrated an 8-year survival rate of 97% for endodontically treated teeth. So basically teeth that were treated endodontically, 97% of them were still in the mouth 8 years later. And this is the big epidemiological study by University of Southern California by Dr. Salarabi that showed that endodontic therapy is basically very effective at retaining the dentition. But what is really success here? Clinical success is based on the treatment of pulpal and apical disease and preservation of the tooth versus, removing it and pulling it or extraction. However, adequate restoration of an endodontically treated tooth is obviously as important of a factor, if not even more critical to the long-term success. As a result, the quality of the restoration should also be considered in the endodontic equation because endodontic therapy is merely a link in the endorestorative chain. And even the most effective endodontic treatment will inevitably fail if the tooth isn't properly or correctly restored in a timely manner. Therefore, while endodontic success alone is dependent on the successful cleaning, shaping, and all the obturation stuff that we have heard in school in Endo 101, a well-sealing coronal restoration really remains a critical factor for the overall success of the case in the long run. And this is all because endodontic therapy can effectively remove microbes from the root canal space at the time of the treatment, but the prevention of recontamination of the root canal space is only possible if there is a well-sealing coronal restoration. Then, in the absence of a proper and optimal coronal seal that results into microleakage, well, recontamination failure of the procedure and of the root canal that has been done will manifest itself as an endodontic failure rather than a restorative failure. So basically, a few years down the line, you've done a beautiful root canal, the endo fails, and it's because there is micro leakage going on because the crown isn't properly sealed up on top or the core isn't done properly and there's leakage going on underneath it. But it's the endo that gets blamed. And that's usually a little bit further down the line. So usually 7 or 8 years later on when a case fails, it's oftentimes due to these reasons. Therefore, the success of an endodontic treatment is dependent on the quality of the root canal therapy in the short run and the quality of the ensuing coronal restoration in the long run. And yes, minimally invasive preparations, irrigation, disinfection, restoration, and proper occlusion all are important and they play a role throughout the treatment. But in general, microbial control during and also after the treatment remains the main source of long-term success for endodontically treated teeth. For example, a simple measure such as using the rubber dam, not only just for root canal therapy, but during the post-placement and certainly even during the core placement are critical, because if you get contamination from saliva in the root canal space before you put your post or your core on the tooth, you're trapping that bacteria in there, and that bacteria in time can cause recontamination of the root canal. So these are important. Insofar as how long an endodontically treated tooth can last, well, we can claim that a root canal treated tooth can potentially last a lifetime. Now, that's provided that it is adequately decontaminated during the treatment and remains clean due to the presence of a proper coronal restoration and an apical seal that lasts. That's a critical thing. That's why, cements that wash out over time are a problem, because the apical seal is lost. So you want to have non-resorbable cements in your root canal filling so that, the root canal the filling doesn't wash out over time. Therefore, adhering to quality restorations, obturation, restorative material that retain their apical and marginal integrity, in the long run, are all key factors for ensuring long-term success in endodontic therapy. At the end, we must also consider the objective of endodontics as a field. Traditionally, we've defined the main goal of endodontic therapy as prevention and treatment of pulpal and apical disease in order to save a tooth. Now, given this definition, while we can agree that we've had a lot of improvements in terms of quality, of treatment, disinfection, and lots of technological improvements that have improved the efficiency of endodontic procedures and, in my opinion, even the efficacy of it, we have not focused enough on preventing pulpal disease. And prevention is really the best way to improve public health and should be a top future priority in conjunction with improving the actual root canal therapy procedure. So I urge you all, my restorative colleagues and other colleagues on both endodontic and restorative field, to focus on developing restorative solutions that are minimally invasive to the pulp and that they can help retain pulp vitality. We succeed as a profession only when we aim to preserve the natural biological properties of the body whenever possible, by trying to not only save the dentition and also but trying not to do root canal therapy where it can be avoided. And that's, perfecting our vital pulp therapy techniques and, better coronal occlusal restorations and better seals. All of those are important in preventing contamination of the pulp, which will then kill the pulp, and then it requires root canal therapy. Anyway, sorry for the long rant. I hope this was helpful to you. Don't forget to leave your comments, share your opinion, what you feel about this topic. As you know, we're very passionate here at Real Endo in trying to save the natural dentition and keep it and do endo versus pulling them and replacing them with implants. Of course, implants have an indication and they're very much appropriate in many cases, but for the most part, I think it's important for us to save our teeth. Anyway, guys, hope you found this helpful, and I'll see you in the next video. And go Pats!